If you are a woman who is wondering how to do less and have more, how to not have to people please or overcompensate in this world that teaches us that we need to perform in order to even feel like we deserve rest, this video is for you. Welcome to the heart of the matter, where today is the first, last, only, and best day of our entire lives. My name is Julia. I am a feminine virtue and vitality coach, which means I help you get closer to biblical wisdom and biological truth in order to see that there is nothing that you need outside of you and you are already whole, complete, and perfect as you are. One day I was dating a man and he said that I was the most intelligent woman he had ever dated. This is because he was measuring my knowledge, my logic, my curiosity around the world, as in he was measuring my IQ, not my EQ. I would have considered him very, very smart if he had had a high level of emotional intelligence. That is, the ability to hear what I'm saying and feeling without me using specific words. If I say I'm fine, if he can tell that actually I'm overwhelmed, that he just has that emotional attunement that as women, because we're connected to our intuition, because we have that grace and that mystery to us, because we have that extra gravitas and grounding, we're able to display. Men value IQ in women because that's how they understand the world. Women value EQ in men because that's how we understand the world. The author Daniel Goleman, in his book Emotional Intelligence, says that IQ only accounts for about 20% of personal success in the world, whereas EQ accounts for 80% of success in the world. In 2017, the Harvard Business Review also found that it was 90% of emotional intelligence which set the high performers apart from their peers who had similar technical skills and IQ. This is the Science of Femininity. Emotional intelligence makes you magnetic. And if you stay until the end, I'll give you bonus ways that you can increase your emotional intelligence as a feminine woman. Subscribe to the newsletter, where everything that I share in these videos is in written format and all the visuals you can find there too. With the help of that author, Daniel Goleman, I'm going to share with you the 5 pillars of emotional intelligence and how that is so integral to being a feminine woman. First, we have self-awareness, and that is best summed in the question, are you able to recognize your feelings, and can you name them without judgment? The anterior cingulate cortex is the part of your brain that helps you regulate internal states. There's a Harvard study that showed that self-awareness is the #1 predictor of leadership success. Overall, it means you're much more aware of what decisions you're making and you have less impulsivity. It means you're taking calculated risks. Number 2 is self-regulation. Can you feel big emotions without reacting or repressing them? And can you respond with grace? I'll tell you more on this science later, but it involves the prefrontal cortex, which is that of impulse control, and calming the amygdala, the part of your brain that hijacks logic when you're in stress mode. So you'll either react in anger or cry or freeze, rather than confront and face what is being asked of you. Number 3 is motivation. When emotions run high, are you able to stay in your values, or do you then feed on external validation? Dopamine and serotonin play a role here because regulated brain chemistry means you'll have sustainable motivation rather than burnout. And I recommend you check out my latest video on external validation because it goes into all of the biochemistry in the brain and how you can actually create that in a healthy way and with healthy habits. The 4th pillar of emotional intelligence is empathy. For my good girls out there and my people pleasers, do you feel what others are feeling without fusing with it? Can you connect without controlling how you're being perceived? Because as soon as you attempt to control, connection disappears. This is tied to the mirror neuron system. Try saying that 10 times fast. And women's are generally more active than men's. Empathy literally means that you're mirroring another's emotions. The 5th emotional intelligence pillar is social skills. Can you navigate conflict, tune into someone's unspoken needs, and stay grounded in connection? The ventromedial prefrontal cortex is the part of our brain that helps us read facial expressions, tone, and nuance. When you have a strong sense of emotional intelligence, you also have better conflict resolution skills, which leads to stronger relationships. Studies show that people who have more activity in this part of the brain are more emotionally intelligent because that's the part of the brain that is responsible for empathy, emotional regulation, and moral reasoning. Femininity is not about emotionality. It's not about fragility. It's about emotional attunement and integrity of what is it I'm feeling and how can I express it. It's not just about being soft and sovereign, it's actually about training your brain through your habits and being neurologically equipped for connection. There's plenty of science around longevity and lifespan being longer due to our strong relationships. There's actually a Harvard study that tracked participants for over 80 years that showed the quality of our relationships in life are the single greatest predictor for long term health and happiness, even more than genes or wealth or IQ. Why emotional intelligence is a feminine power. Unlike masculine energy that is a lot more logical and straightforward, feminine energy is receptive, relational, intuitive, and responsive. EQ is the exact skill set that supports those traits. It makes you magnetic because you listen deeply and you respond from your heart. It makes you mature because you don't spiral or suppress. You process and lead from love. And it makes you mysterious yet grounded because you don't always explain yourself with logic, but people feel your energy. According to the BBC Science Focus in 2022, by a study of 150,000 people, women actually scored higher than men on empathy and interpersonal relationships. This is because women's limbic systems, which are our emotional centers, are typically more active and more interconnected with the prefrontal cortex than men's. While on one hand, that makes us a lot more emotionally attuned, on the other, if we become dysregulated, we are a lot more vulnerable to emotional burnout. So, why many women struggle with low emotional intelligence is because of that confusion between emotionality and emotions. There are three major reasons, one of which, and the most overt, is chronic stress. When you're in survival mode, and I was for so many years, high levels of cortisol, which is the stress hormone, flood your brain, making it impossible to think clearly. While the amygdala gets inflamed, the prefrontal cortex actually shrinks. That is the seat of empathy, discernment, and reflection. All of this leads to more reactivity and less control. Yale University conducted studies both in 2014 and 2018 that show that high cortisol levels impact memory, empathy, and emotional regulation, and that chronic stress reduces gray matter in the brain, leaving you exhausted and numb. So, no, you're not alone feeling that way. When you're in fight or flight, you cannot attune to others. You're just reacting because you're trying to survive. Here's where I have to tell you that it is not just trauma, it's a biological program. Your mind, body, soul is adapting all at the same time in order to survive. It's actually how you've been created in God's image. This is German New Medicine. It's the map to how your body works alongside each other. It is holistic and it's happening whether you decide to see it this way or not. It actually gave me so much sense and understanding to why I'm behaving the way that I am, because it's not just physical symptoms that it explains, but also mental patterns of personality. It's time to bring yourself more compassion and try to see this from a different perspective. Don't take anything of what I say as medical advice. That is not how I'm prescribing it. It is rather just a different story, a different way of seeing things that may well liberate you into seeing the truth. So many of us are conflict active. There are special biological programs running in our subconscious mind, in our bodies, that we just don't know what they are. When we bring awareness to these, there is a possibility for them to heal and play out fully. Therefore, that restores our vitality, our life force energy, our eros, our chi, whatever you want to call it, that capacity to just be joyful. You can access that again when you bring awareness to these things that happened in your past because it brings so much more understanding to them. Suffering disappears when meaning appears. If this is all confusing language to you, you can check out the podcast linked down below, or you can book a Vitality one-to-one call with me now, and we can talk about the symptoms that you're experiencing through this lens of German New Medicine. We can see how your body might still be caught in an unresolved pattern of conflict shocks because our body's always trying to serve us. When we are in an environment that reminds us of that conflict shock, this is called a track. When we step back onto that track, that conflict shock simulation, our bodies remember what it was that they experienced the first time it occurred. Therefore, they play out that symptom over again. This is just to remind us of what that initial shock was in order to heal it, in order to bring it to our conscious attention. You can also check out the last video I shared on how it is that biological laws do not limit us when we're actually living in the spirit, in the fruits of the spirit. If you want to know what the 3 parts of a conflict shock occurring are, also check out that last episode. Let me give you an example. A lot of us believe that we might be allergic to, say, gluten, or that we might be lactose intolerant. Say when you were eating that gluten or you were drinking that milk, your parents were having an argument and you were just 7 years old, a child who's unable to do anything about it. Your subconscious mind will have taken a screenshot, basically, of everything that is happening, what you're eating, what it sounds like, what it smells like, every single sense. And it reminds you when you next eat those particles of gluten that are in the pizza, your subconscious mind picks up on that and it gives you that flare of allergy or symptom. You're not broken in any way, you are simply biologically responding to that environment. So, attempting to leave survival mode may well mean being able to resolve a conflict shock that has been playing out a special biological program for far too long. You can become even more emotionally intelligent by becoming self aware of what those conflicts were, what your patterns are, and how to now liberate yourself into a way of being without those conflicts being active. German New Medicine aligns with neuroscience as well, especially with the studies showing how the limbic system and the autonomic nervous system are shaped by early shocks and repeat stress patterns. If you're coming from that biblical point of view, it also shows in the word how healing came after recognition by praying about the pain, repenting from fear, and being restored by grace. GNM is so similar. Once you see the conflict and restore peace to your psyche and your soul, your biology follows. You can book that Vitality one-to-one call with me at the link in the description. The second reason why, as a woman, you might be suffering from low emotional intelligence is poor sleep. Poor sleep in the long term is going to give you low emotional resilience. After just one night of sleep loss, the frontal lobe activity reduces by 60%. And the frontal lobe is what gives you that emotional control. Sleep loss also increases amygdala reactivity. According to UC Berkeley, this is by more than 50%. Without REM sleep, the brain cannot properly process emotions. This leads to overreactivity and hypersensitivity. And third, we have caffeine addiction. This leads to a numbed intuition. Caffeine increases adrenaline and cortisol. By triggering this fight or flight mode, it can reduce your subtle nudges in your body that you're usually a lot more able to perceive. Therefore, your empathy and your capacity to attune reduces as well. Long-term use of caffeine disrupts adenosine cycles, which regulate rest and calm, and it dulls interoception, your ability to sense your inner state, which is essential to self-awareness. When your nervous system is in defense mode because you have far too much stress overload, because you're intaking far too much caffeine, and when you're just not sleeping enough, your emotional intelligence simply goes offline. And a dysregulated woman cannot be a discerning woman. If you want to have that radiance and that vitality about you, if you want to be truly virtuous and capable of choosing a man that's going to be a good partner and a good father to your children, how do you think you're going to do this if you're not caring for yourself in the best way you possibly can first? There are 2 modes of operation. There is thriving and then there is surviving. Which one are you honestly in? Tell me in the comments. So, how to cultivate emotional intelligence the feminine way? First and foremost, we want to lower our stress hormones. Daily nervous system practices like breathwork, like prayer, like slow movement all improve the vagal tone, which is essential for emotional intelligence, and it is linked to having a high EQ. In 2020, Harvard Medical School found how just 6 deep breaths can reduce cortisol by 20%. So, in your stressful day, attempt to pause and take 6 deep breaths. This helps you be in your body, not only in your head. The head is where the IQ is, where men tend to be. We want to be in our body by doing more things that connect us to how we are feeling. You want to do things that activate your parasympathetic nervous system, not simply your sympathetic nervous system. This is what actually creates an environment that GNM shows we need for the healing, the restoration phase, where we will be showing symptoms. So you actually want to start seeing how symptoms are a good thing. It shows that your body is already in a state of being able to heal, such as when you have a headache on the weekend and then you go back to work and the next weekend you have a headache again. This is possibly because you have this high stress rate at work, and then by the weekend, you're able to relax, and that is when the headache comes on. Recognize that when you have symptoms, this is a sign that your body is already healing. You don't need something to suppress the signs that your body is showing you and trying to communicate to you. When you take that moment in your day to take 6 deep breaths, you can also put a hand on your chest and feel how your heart rate slows. Really notice how you're feeling right then. Ask yourself, what do I need? Maybe go get yourself a glass of water and then get back to whatever it is you have to do. The second thing you can do to cultivate emotional intelligence the feminine way is to heal your sleep and circadian rhythm. But if you want to have regulated emotions, it's important to also have regulated hormone. The emotional repair hormone is melatonin, and this gets produced between 10 p.m. and 2 a.m. the most. So try to get to bed every night before 10 p.m., and then you can wake up early as well. To automatically go to sleep and wake up at the same time consistently is going to set a very healthy relationship with your sleep patterns. A stable rhythm helps balance estrogen, progesterone, and serotonin, all of which are necessary for an emotional balance. It has so much to do with light. When we're on our phones with blue light, this makes us believe that it is actually morning, where there are a lot more blue waves in the light. By the evening, there's a lot more red waves in the light. This is why when we have our blue lights on inside at night, our brains don't know that it's not yet time to wind down. It's actually been proven that women with consistent circadian rhythms show 34% lower rates of anxiety and depression. The third way to cultivate your emotional intelligence as a feminine woman is to break up with caffeine. Due to estrogen fluctuations, caffeine sensitivity in women is 2 times higher than in men. Simply be more discerning around needing that substance or not. Do I need to drink coffee or can I drink cocoa, which is a gentle stimulant with magnesium and emotional calm? Or you can try having tulsi tea, which is an adaptogen that actually reduces cortisol. What we're trying to do is reconnect you to your natural energy through nourishment and rest. Caffeine actually blunts adenosine, which is the neurotransmitter that signals tiredness. Also supports emotional awareness and deep sleep cycles. So the less caffeine you have, the better you'll be able to listen to your intuition. Here are your bonus feminine emotional intelligence habits. You can daily journal, what am I feeling and why? Once you find the reason why, that feeling, if it's a stuck one that you don't want to be living with, will disappear on its own because you actually know the information it came to tell you. You made space for it. Also, name your needs without shaming them. I can't tell you how many women I work with in these vitality calls, and they have all of these symptoms that simply came from a moment where they told themselves that what they needed was not good enough, was not to be said, and therefore they now have these symptoms. A special biological program went into effect in the first place because they shunned their own emotional needs. They put themselves into emotional isolation, and it is not worth it to have teeth problems, to have bone problems, simply because you didn't consider that actually voicing what you need is exactly what life's about. Let yourself cry. Have you spoken to yourself about how you feel about this? Have you taken yourself aside and actually said out loud how you feel? Most likely, we have not let the anger, the disappointment, the regret, the resentment say what it has come to say. Just to say, this is how I'm feeling right now, and it is not okay. Maybe it should be okay, but it just doesn't feel that way right now. Allowing it to speak, allowing yourself to cry is exactly what will process that pain out of your body. Nobody can do this for you. And it actually releases oxytocin and cortisol, and it is better than a pill. You can also use a feelings wheel to expand your emotional vocabulary. When you're next in conversation with someone, I suggest that you listen to what is being said other than the words. Listen to the tone, listen to the way that their eyes are looking and darting across the room. Listen to the way that they're holding themselves. Listen to these subtle components and the subtext of the words that they're using. it is going to allow you to have that emotional intelligence in the long run. Your femininity does not come from how you look, it comes from how you feel, because people pick up on that. And it is not like you need strength without softness or softness without strength, but both have the strength it takes to be soft. Because when you know your boundaries, when you know that if anything arises, you'll be able to name something, whatever is coming up, and you can trust yourself, then you'll have that inner strong pillar. And on the outside, you'll be able to be soft. You'll be able to be adaptable. You'll be able to soften in the way that you ask for things. You'll be able to invite and inspire men instead of demand and nag them. You'll be able to lift your friends up and create an environment where you all actually want to be instead of leave this simmering feeling of something just wasn't treated correctly. Really, you become a woman that you want to always have been when you develop this emotional intelligence in you consistently. And when you see it as a game, it becomes even more fun. Now, if you're interested in a call with me that's not GNM based, I also offer the virtue calls where we look at all aspects of your life, relationships, habits, health, wealth, and where you're at with those. And I really want to help you become that woman that you've known for so long is right there, but you just don't know how to reach her. If it's not time for you just yet, subscribe to the Substack below where you'll be getting these from me weekly. Subscribe to the channel, and I am so excited to get to know you in the future. You know, when the Bible says the Proverbs 31 woman is dressed in strength and dignity and she laughs at the days to come, that is not just about clothes, okay? That is about character. That is emotional intelligence in action. She knows when to speak, when to move, when to act, when to meditate and hold something that's been said to her, when to turn that into gold, and when to actually use it as a way to drive her and her family upwards in the world instead of to spite somebody. Emotional intelligence is such wisdom. It's a way to honor your emotions and actually stand true to them by developing the skills to steward them into the world. Until next week, as my Oma always said, harden not your heart, love and serve each other.